Man, are y'all serious? Y'all really like this fucking shit? Pikmin is my favorite game from Nintendo, without question. Made a whole video talking about that. Pikmin 1 is a fantastic game and experience. It's endlessly replayable with mechanics that work together in tandem with its atmosphere and gameplay almost perfectly. Even though I haven't played many other games that share a genre with it, Pikmin 1 is what I immediately point to for what I want in a real-time strategy game. I can't even really name many flaws with the game, any that actually detract from my experience with it at least. The game set out to do exactly what it wanted to do, and it achieved it with flying colors. Though there is one thing that I mentioned in that video that I did get a decent amount of pushback on, and it's the fact that I don't think Pikmin 2 is that good of a game. What is it now? What, my opinion? Okay, well, I think that's incredibly close-minded, so if you could do me a solid and get the gun just out of here, we don't need that anymore, and just listen to me. Can we do that? Is that a thing we can do? Right. Thank you.
Wow, Tyler, look at you! You're just a little negative Nancy now, going after all the popular opinions like that.
Huh. I guess you're right. Guys, like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed the negative Nancy era of Pete Tyler. I'll come back next week and tell you guys about how Pokemon Coliseum sucks and how Persona 5 killed my entire family. Now, I offhandedly mentioned in that last video a few times that I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of Pikmin 2. Maybe it came off a bit meaner than I thought it would've. I maybe could have added, like, a tinge of sarcasm to it to make it come off a bit better, but whatever, we live and we learn. Though judging by that admission, I think it should become clear that, at the time, I didn't really hate Pikmin 2 that much. Yeah, it's got flaws. A lot of flaws. And I wasn't gonna pretend like they didn't exist, but at the end of the day, it's not like it's the worst thing out there. Hell, even at the time, I would go ahead and rank it above Pikmin 3 due to the fact that I thought it was just a fun-ass experience regardless. That, however, has changed very dramatically. Now, I ran a poll a while back asking what game you guys wanted me to review next, and while I wanted to do all of them just about equally, and I still want to do the rest of them at some point down the road, so stay tuned for those, I was definitely hoping that Pikmin 2 would at least be a little lower down on that ranking, as I thought it'd be better to space out the Pikmin videos a bit, and also because of those aforementioned flaws. Safe to say, I wasn't exactly frothing out the mouth to play it again for footage. So yeah, guess what fucking won? So guess what? All of my suffering and all of my anger, that's on you. That's on all of you for making me fucking replay this game by fucking voting for it. Nah, I'm kidding. I wouldn't have put it on there anyways if I didn't want to review it, but it was really hard for all those flaws to not come rushing back in my head the second the realization hit me that I have to review Pikmin 2. So, all of that definitely made the idea of replaying the game a lot less desirable. But hey, I did it anyways because I love you guys. All 605... How many fucking subscribers do I have? This many. And hell, some of you guys even commented on that Pikmin 1 video telling me that you wanted to see me talk about this one. So, I knew it was gonna be coming eventually, but listen guys, I've gotta be honest about this one. This game is so fucking rough in so many places, to the point where it's not even funny. Imagine my surprise when I found out that Pikmin 2 is largely considered the fan favorite within the Pikmin community. You're joking, right? And the unfortunate thing is, I can somewhat understand why. The game is considerably longer than Pikmin 1, it has a lot more content, it has a lot more character and charm, it has a challenge mode and a multiplayer battle mode included as side content, has a good chunk of tech to work around, and is ultimately really fulfilling to 100%. All of this sounds great, and it is great. Though, that's only about, what, half the picture? Maybe more so around the 35% mark. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's start from the start of the narrative, because these games have those. It also allows me to start with the positives before I fall into talking about the negatives. Pikmin 2 takes place directly after the first game ends, after Olimar escapes the planet he was marooned on. He ends up going back home to his home planet, Hakatate, where it's revealed that he's actually been working for a freight company this whole time, Hakatate Freight. Though unfortunately, as soon as he gets back, he finds out that the company has landed on hard times. It's here where the company president, that's his canon name by the way, informs that the company has gone into immense debt after a new hire, Louis, ended up getting attacked on a mission and having his entire delivery ransacked, causing the president to have to take out a gigantic loan for the company to cover the cost of the goods that Louis ended up losing. This causes all of the company's assets to be repossessed, which causes Olimar to drop this bottle cap that he's been carrying the whole time, which is picked up by one of the shits on the lot and declared as valuable. Realizing that there's more on the planet to be found, the president decides to send Olimar and Louis back to the planet to find all those treasures. And so they go, they crash on the planet again, find some Pikmin, yada yada, you know the shit already. Pikmin 2's opening is a lot more comedic than the last game, at least with its intent. Pikmin 1's opening is a lot more concise and immediately slammed you with the goal and made you work towards it. Though, by making the narrative a life or death story, it felt a lot more dire, which was further exemplified with its gameplay. Though, while Pikmin 2 also hits you with this immediate goal and tells you to work towards it, it doesn't really have the same immediate edge that Pikmin 1 had, though the inciting incident still manages to remain effective regardless. Let's talk about that new face though, specifically referring to Louis' face. Louis is your companion throughout the adventure on this planet this time around, now allowing you to have two captains running around. Louis is so goddamn funny. He perfectly plays off of Olimar's more serious, empathetic, and understanding nature with a general bumbling attitude and an insatiable appetite. He only really gets to show this bit of himself at the beginning of the game before he has to get to work, but he does an amazing job of immediately winning me over. With two captains now, there's a new sense of depth to the strategy you can employ. With just a single press of a button, you're able to swap which captain you're controlling, which allows you to more effectively multitask. In Pikmin 1, if you wanted to play them most efficiently, you were gonna have to split up your workflow. Though since you only have one captain, you can only do so much at a time, so it causes you to have to run back and forth across the map in many scenarios. However, with both Olimar and Louis, you can more easily have multiple things going on. It's actually really freeing to have multiple captains running around, and sometimes whenever I go back to play Pikmin 1, I kinda miss how good we have it in the newer games with two of them. This is genuinely a really great addition. In this game in particular, there's actually a really subtle detail in the music whenever you switch between the two captains. The songs are different depending on who you're controlling. Olimar's versions are how they're normally meant to sound, but whenever you swap to Louis, the songs go offbeat and into swing rhythm. It's such a small thing that they didn't have to add, but I'm really happy that they did. As you go back to the Pikmin planet, you'll find out that all the new areas that you're going to aren't actually entirely new. Rather, they're reskins of the areas from the previous game with some minor tweaks. The Valley of Repose is the impact site, the Awakening Wood is the Forest of Hope, Perplexing Pool is the Distant Spring, etc. There's only one area that's actually missing here, being the Forest Navel. But given what this game's identity is mainly built around, it makes sense why that one's missing. All of the areas are changed just enough to feel new. All of them are given a specific season out of the year to help distinguish them further as well. While it's a little annoying that you're pretty much just going through the same areas again, like I said, they're different enough this time around. The only one that felt super obvious about where we actually were was the Perplexing Pool, but that's mainly because making the water area the summer area doesn't exactly make it feel that much different, but it's not like it matters that much as the overworld is significantly less of a focus in this game, as a lot of the gameplay has to do with the newly introduced caves. Yes, pretty much 80% of the gameplay this time around will be spent in the caves, as most of the treasure in this game will be found underground, splitting up the gameplay into two distinct parts. While I'll get more in depth about the actual meat of the caves later, I think it's important to mention now because of the effects it has on the overworld. I think that the biggest thing this brings to the table is the fact that Pikmin 2 does not have a time limit. In the traditional sense, at least. The day limit is completely gone in this game. You can take as many days as you want to complete the goal in front of you now. Days themselves still have a time limit, though, as you only have a limited amount of time per day to use however you see fit, just like in Pikmin 1. This is something I'm pretty mixed on. Pikmin games don't need to have a time limit to feel like Pikmin, I get that, and hell, I even agree there. Though, I think the best parts of Pikmin and what really make these games the most fun are made much clearer with the time limit. By removing the day limit, this is inherently just putting less of an emphasis on the pinch element that Pikmin 1 introduced.
That's not to say Pikmin 2 doesn't add pinch at all. It still does. Enemies will still respawn after a few days, which means you're still encouraged to get shit done quickly, or else you're gonna have to waste more time killing the same enemies over and over again. Also returning from Pikmin 1 is new enemies spawning on the overworld the longer you take in a certain area. For example, if you for some reason take over 30 days to clear out the perplexing pool, a beady longlegs will spawn there. Yeah, that one boss from Pikmin 1, it'll just randomly spawn in the overworld. These two elements are designed to punish players who take too long, which I think is fine. It's enough to encourage you to move things along quickly, but that doesn't really change the fact that the amount of days you take is just inherently de-incentivized in this game. In Pikmin 1, there's a certain level of pride to being able to knock days off of your runs. The game was short enough for this to bring a sense of accomplishment, and all the elements in that game's design work perfectly in tandem with this idea. A Pikmin 2 by comparison is much longer, so inherently that takes multiple run-throughs to shave off days feel a lot more tedious. Now, while you can still set that challenge upon yourself, don't. But alright, Pikmin 2 is clearly a lot more experimental, and I can accept that both games are made for different types of gamers. That's fair, right? Pikmin 1 is made for people who like to replay games a lot and see how they can optimize their playthroughs, while Pikmin 2 is for people who like fuller feeling games. Sure. That's fine. Though I can't say that I absolutely love how they handled shifting Pikmin in this way. I think I've made that point kinda clear already though, so let's talk about something that I do actually really like about the game. How fucking charming it is! Like, seriously, Pikmin 2 is overflowing with personality. This is probably one of the most charming games Nintendo has ever put out. The additions of both Louis and the President to the series, and Nintendo's catalog of characters in general, add so much. I specifically love the writing on the President in these emails he sends you periodically throughout the journey. Him talking about how he's on the run, living under a bridge, and eating grass to survive is metal as hell, and something I really didn't think you would get out of this game, and something you wouldn't get out of Nintendo nowadays. A good chunk of these emails got genuine chuckles out of me, and honestly, I think my favorite detail about them is that the longer you take on the Pikmin planet, the more dire the President's situation gets as well, and the more pissed he gets at you taking so long. Which I guess is another thing to pressure you to get shit done faster too, but it's also really fucking funny as well. You also can't really talk about charming in Pikmin 2 in the same sentence without talking about the Piklopedia as well. This is every Pikmin fan's favorite thing in the entire world, right next to slavery. And for good reason. It's an in-depth database of every single thing that you can run into out in the wild, for enemies and the treasures. The enemy information is really cool too, because both captains have individual things to say about every single one. Olimar's notes read similar to his end of the day monologues in the first game, where it's mainly just him trying to make sense of everything around him and relating it to his everyday life. But Louis, on the other hand, is a chef. I love this little fucker, man. He's so cool. These cutscenes are also really good too, which is another thing worth bringing up. For 2004, these cutscenes look amazing. Like, they look so fucking crisp here as if they were rendered in the modern day, which is probably what happened. Nintendo must have held on to the original files and then re-rendered them in HD for the Switch port, and they look great. I don't know why they put all this effort into the cutscenes for the Pikmin Nintendo Switch ports, but I'm not complaining. At this current moment at least, because I'm gonna start complaining again in like 2 seconds. Wouldn't be a Pikmin game without the Pikmin, right? In the same way that it wouldn't be a Persona game if it was good. Though Pikmin 2 unfortunately brings a lot of problems to the realm of Pikmin types. Starting with the original 3 colors, reds and blues have largely remained unchanged from how they were in Pikmin 1, but yellows have seen a lot of care and attention. A lot of people largely like to write off yellows in the first game as useless, because they weren't really used for much outside of their case uses in that game, being their higher throw height and ability to carry bomb rocks. Though the latter thing is what gave them most of their usefulness, and is what keeps them relevant throughout the entire game. You always wanted yellows with you, because bombs were desirable to break down those reinforced walls, because they were the only thing that could break them down. Though bombs were also helpful at breaking down regular walls, performing certain skips, and they were incredibly helpful in combat. Though from a more casual perspective, yellows are given a lot more in this game because the game's design is more built around yellows. While bombs and reinforced walls are absent in this game, yellow Pikmin in turn gain a resistance to a new elemental hazard, being electricity. However, unlike the other elemental hazards like fire and water, electricity kills your fucking Pikmin instantly. Yeah, one single zap from electricity and they're just dead. This is obviously a fucking scary. This does 2 things. One, it puts a lot more emphasis on yellow Pikmin in this game, as since they're the only ones who can safely deal with the electric hazards, they're always beneficial to bring with you. Secondly, It's a hazard that you're fucking terrified of. A hazard this deadly is something you have to respect and handle as delicately as possible, which provides a super unique approach you have to take whenever you see an electric hazard. You obviously have to play around the hazards all the time in the Pikmin games, but in every other game, if your Pikmin gets caught in a hazard, it's just you whistle it and then they're back in your party and they're fine. Outside of maybe fire in Pikmin 1, which can kill Pikmin in a single second, but like, you're fine if you have good reflexes. Like, it's not nearly as deadly as electricity, but it's still good to mention. But even with all that, I think electricity is a great addition to the game. But Pikmin 2 isn't just about these older faces. There are two new Pikmin types this time around, Purple Pikmin and White Pikmin. Now, one of these is a lot more problematic than the other, and spoiler alert, it's the one that everybody points to, so let's talk about the other one first. White Pikmin are very versatile units that bring with them a resistance to a new element, poison. On top of this, they're also the fastest of the Pikmin types, which means that they're usually the best option to use when carrying stuff back. They're also able to unearth buried objects from the ground and will sense them whenever you walk over them. On top of this, there's also a silver lining to losing them as well, as if an enemy kills one of them via consumption, it'll poison that enemy. For some enemies, losing a single White Pikmin is enough to kill that enemy entirely. The fact that the White Pikmin have all of these abilities easily make them the most robust Pikmin you can put in your party. You don't need a whole lot of them with you, but the ones that you do have are usually able to get a lot of work done. They're overall a really solid Pikmin type. They kind of remind me of the usefulness that yellows see in Pikmin 1, except I would argue whites in this game are better than yellows were in Pikmin 1. Though, I think the usefulness of White Pikmin peaks in this game. They kind of fall off a bit in Pikmin 3 and 4, but hey, that's for future me to cover. Here though, they're a solid Pikmin. The other new face we have in this game are Purple Pikmin. They single-handedly ruin the game's balance.
I feel just like a purple Pikmin.
Okay, that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it's not entirely unfounded. Purple Pikmin bring with them a 2x damage buff, having the chance to stun enemies on contact and do a shit ton of damage whenever they initially connect. These three abilities alone make it so pretty much every single combat encounter is just gonna turn out like this. And if you could imagine, this gets really boring really fast. And sure, the cope that you hear all the time is... And sure, that'd be a good defense if it was, but it's not. Yeah, okay, it's true that purple Pikmin are a rare resource, as them and whites can only be made in caves. They don't have onions like the rest of the other types, and therefore you can't make more whenever you want. You have to go to one of these, like, little flower things to make one. Side note, these are called candy pop buds. This makes it so overall you're gonna have less of both than all three of the other types, and even to get these two types, you have to convert another Pikmin into them using the candy pop buds. This is a good idea taking in the game's actual design, because if you were able to make purples whenever you want, it would have zero consequences whatsoever. But even in its current state, it has zero consequences whatsoever. Like, if I lose a purple in combat, I'm just gonna do this, and by me doing that, I've successfully reloaded the entire cave at the beginning of the floor, so now that mistake I made never happened. And yes, I know that you can't just assume that everyone will know to do this whenever they eat shit in this game, but once you learn that you can just reset a floor in the cave with zero consequences, you literally have no reason to not use purples in every combat scenario. I like what the purples bring to the game. They're a Pikmin type that's super powerful, yet very rare, and they're a massive risk to use. Though, based on how you can exploit the game in your favor, that idea crumbles almost instantly.
But, Tyler, just don't reset.
If I hear any of you guys make this rebuttal about Pikmin 2, shut the fuck up. Have you ever considered that? Maybe shut the fuck up. How about you shut—
And yeah, there were some fights where I elected to just not use purples because I didn't want to sit there resetting for 3 hours straight just for a desired outcome, which I guess is me playing to the original design of purples, and that's what the game wants you to do, but I don't feel like that's really earned because the opposite outcome is, again, me resetting for 3 hours straight. So Purple Pikmin and Pikmin 2 are the best type in the entire series, just without a doubt. They practically invalidate every other type in combat, which is super unfortunate because that was the draw of Red Pikmin, right? Yeah, they're also immune to fire, but honestly, that attribute is second to me at this point. To me, their main ability is their 1.5x damage multiplier because it comes into play more often. But because of purples, they feel really shafted in this game. Yeah, it's good to bring them with you to deal with the fire hazards, and they're the only type who can safely kill fiery Bulblaxes, which are an incredibly annoying enemy 100% 90% of the time. Though, that's just one enemy in a game full of 18 billion different ones, and fire geysers can actually be destroyed in Pikmin 2 by, well, any type, actually. So while yes, it is usually safe to bring reds with you, and you should do it regardless, you only really have them for the sake of having them, because their two niches are practically worthless in this game most of the time. Same with blues, honestly. Arguably more so than reds. Blues don't really get outclassed by any types in specific, but they definitely get outclassed by the game's core design. Like with reds, it's always safe to bring some with you, but again, it's more so out of obligation to deal with the things that other types cannot deal with, like getting treasures in water. Which, hell, water overall is less of a concern in this game because, well, in the overworld at least, you can outright drain water, which makes blues even more worthless because once you drain that water, you don't need blues in that area anymore. Blues were the worst type in Pikmin 1, but that wasn't a super big knock against them there because every type is pretty close together and Pikmin 1's design is more designed around blue Pikmin. But with blues being designed the way that they are, that being they're only really good for their specific use cases and not much else, it really starts to bite them in the ass starting in this game. Outside of a single cave, but you're forced into using them for that one anyways. They're strictly just the type that you have in your party to deal with the one or two things you'll find where you need them. So, Pikmin types are super unbalanced in this game. It also makes party compositions super fucking boring throughout the game as well. In caves, the best thing you can do for yourself is bring like 20 reds, 20 blues to deal with their specific hazards, 20 purples for that, 10 whites for the stuff that they can do, and because you don't really need any more than that to take care of what they can do, and those last 30 slots can go to yellows because they're easily the best type that you can grow from onions in this game, and because of how deadly electricity is, it's usually good to have a stockpile of them on you so you can take care of that. I did kinda lie though, there's a sixth type exclusive to Pikmin 2 that can only be used within caves, Bulbmin. These guys are one of the only ways that you can replenish your numbers in caves, the other way being these Queen Candy Pop buds, which will give you more of whatever color the flower is when you throw a Pikmin in. Bulbmin are immune to every single elemental hazard and are fucking freaks of nature, and because of that, you can't take them out of caves. They also never appear again in the series, and they functionally get replaced by glow Pikmin in Pikmin 4. Fuck you, Bulbmin.
It's really funny how most of the negative stuff about Pikmin 2 seems to come from the caves. It's almost like they're the source of most of the bad shit in this game. The caves are the source of most of the bad shit in this game.
Now, what else can be said about caves that hasn't been said already? Not a lot. This game's old as shit, but that's not really the most fun answer that I can give when it's literally my set goal to review games, so I'm gonna go further in depth with it. Now, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Caves are extremely antithetical to everything Pikmin 1 set out to do. Now, like I said earlier, that's fine, because Pikmin 2 is just already a much more experimental game that aims to do new shit. I'm not gonna bash the game for trying something new. Though, I do have an issue with the game not delivering on what I consider the core mechanic of Pikmin: time management. Like I said earlier, this is where Pikmin thrives. Pikmin 1's whole thing was that you get 13 minutes to try and get as much as you can done. That's it. It worked, and it worked perfectly in my opinion. It worked in tandem with the vibes that the game set in place, and was also able to create an insanely addictive gameplay loop that set this strong of a foundation for the series. Unfortunately though, the baseline design of the caves in Pikmin 2 kind of go against said foundation in a variety of ways, and end up trampling over what made Pikmin 1 so good in the first place. Firstly, there's no time limit, at all. Once you go underground in the caves, time completely freezes. You can take all the time you want in the cave and the day will not progress on the overworld by a single second. This is an incredibly strange design choice that goes against what Pikmin at its core tried to do, but it also kind of goes against the other parts of the game, with the day limit also being gone alongside the time limit essentially being irrelevant in like 80% of the gameplay. Listen, I know I said that I could accept this game being more experimental, and I genuinely can respect that. I respect Pikmin 2 for trying something new, but guys, that defense can only go so fucking far. Though, again, even though I don't necessarily agree with these choices, I'm still willing to accept the vision here. I am willing to accept that Nintendo views Pikmin in a different way, and willing to see that vision through. Pikmin, at its core, is a real-time strategy game, right? Like, we can agree on that. It's a genre about analyzing your environment and then making decisions based on that. That's technically what you do with the time limit in Pikmin 1 anyways. So yeah, if that's what Nintendo wants Pikmin to be, and that's clearly what they want Pikmin to be considering how the series has gone nowadays, then hell yeah, I can accept that. That still sounds fun. And that's technically what they do in the caves. They're smaller challenges with many different obstacles for you to analyze and conquer. That sounds kind of fun.
It is a real crying shame, though, that it's not. It gets boring and old really, really fast.
To clarify, I'm simply referring to how the gameplay is executed in this game. I think Pikmin at its core is still fun, and you'll see me come back to that point later. Even in these games' weakest moments, I think they're fun. Though, none of this is really because of what Pikmin 2 adds to the experience. It's mainly just because it's a Pikmin game, and as Pikmin 1 proved, Pikmin is fun. The cave design in Pikmin 2, for example, doesn't really feel super thought out, mostly because it isn't really thought out. Pikmin 2 uses random generation within the caves, though it's not like how a game like, well, I don't know, Persona 3 handles random generation. That game will just genuinely randomly generate hallways and stuff for you to do with little rhyme or reason. The actual basis of the level design in Pikmin 2's caves remains rigid. Every sublevel's map will be the same, but where all the treasures, the enemies, the hazards, and the like will be are random every single time. And I don't really know why they decided to do this, because it doesn't really add anything. Yeah, sure, it makes it so every single time you go through the cave, you'll have to tackle it differently, but that idea is offset by the fact that the random generation can just completely fuck you, and if you're already resetting, you can just reset until you get a layout that's more desirable for you. As for the hazards themselves, you've got the enemies, of course, but you've got the fire geysers returning from Pikmin 1, which, like I mentioned before, can actually be destroyed this time around, electric wires, which are Hitler, and these pipes that shoot poisonous gas. Combined with the enemies and all the other shit that you have to navigate throughout the cave, it really just makes it feel like you're going through a minefield with a Swiss Army knife and a prayer. Which is cool, I guess, but not exactly the most thought out, as most of the time it's just like, oh hey, there's fire in my way, now I'm gonna throw my reds at it and disarm them so I can go through safely. And hell, you don't even really need specific types to disarm the hazards outside of whites for the poison. It's obviously safer to do it with the type that's made for it, but you don't really need to. As for the enemies themselves, there are a lot of returning faces from Pikmin 1, but there's also a bunch of new faces as well. Unfortunately, though, the ones that stick in my head the most are the ones that left the worst tastes in my mouth. You've got the fiery Bulblacks, like I mentioned earlier, a Bulborb that's constantly on fire and they need to be killed with reds. The careening Dirigibugs, who will throw out big bomb rocks at you, causing you to have to be extremely careful when you take them down. You've got a variation of the swooping shipbug from the first game, being the bumbling shipbug, which instead of grabbing Pikmin, it'll grab your captains. These ones aren't hard to fight, and they're just more annoying than anything, but you have the anode beetles who cannon beetles, who are basically just smaller versions of that one boss from Pikmin 1. In fact, speaking of bosses, every single cave has a boss fight at the bottom of it, which is really cool. But because they're placed in dedicated spaces, that allows them to have really well-designed fights. And this overall is an improvement from Pikmin 1. Though, all of these guys have nothing on what is probably the worst enemy in this entire series. The Gatling Groink. Holy shit, man, these guys have got to be the most annoying enemies. I've ever seen. They shoot out these bullets that explode on contact, which seem to flip-flop between killing your Pikmin or just knocking them over. They can sometimes spawn on top of these towers as well, which makes hitting them really fucking annoying. And they have this huge shield on their head as well that blocks Pikmin from latching onto them. And on top of this, they can also regenerate as well. In fact, bull bears from the first game also gain the ability to regenerate if you kill them and don't carry their corpse back to the ship. Though, and you may not believe me when I say this, I'm actually not opposed to this as a concept. It actually leads to a pretty interesting idea with the RTS systems in the game, as you have to judge whether or not bringing the corpse back is a good idea or not. Usually it's probably going to be a yes for you, but it also brings these sprays on the left side into play. Yeah, don't worry, I didn't forget about these. In the overworld, you can find these berries on these plants, and once you bring enough back to the ship, it'll give you one of these sprays. Spicy spray for the red berries, and bitter spray for the purple ones. Spicy spray will pretty much supercharge your Pikmin. It'll boost their attack damage and greatly buff their speed. Bitter spray will petrify enemies, turning them into stone for a few seconds, allowing you to attack them without fear of getting attacked yourself, though with the side effect of destroying their corpse once you kill them and dropping nectar in its place. See where this is going? Yeah, just so you don't have to deal with enemies that regenerate, and if you have the bitter spray to burn, it might be a good idea in some situations to pop a bitter on one of them right before you kill it, destroying their corpse. While these hazards in the cave vary on the spectrum from positive to negative, they all at least make sense, you know? Like, they fit in with the formula of Pikmin and cause you to constantly analyze your environment and make decisions based on it. It can be tedious at times, yes, though they make sense and I'm fine with them. That, however, cannot be said about what I'm about to talk about next.
Tyler, you can react to all of this stuff. The bomb rocks are on timers that count down, and that allows you to maneuver around them with relative ease. Volatile dweevils can be easily outran, and the boulders display shadows on the floor, which tell you exactly where they're going to fall. You can react to all of these, and they add such a cool RTS element to the cave exploration.
Now let me ask you this.
Ah!
Was what I did just considered funny?
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry.
Alright, there are no mental gymnastics that I can pull to get around this. Everything else, while something that I personally can find issues with, I can also see why someone would enjoy and acknowledge that they do add something to the experience. I even enjoy some of them. This, though, I'm just gonna be frank here, this is not good game design. This shit is incredibly fucking punishing and the biggest example of artificial difficulty I've ever seen in a video game. And sure, your response to this might be, but it's funny though. Which, yeah, it's funny. Maybe like the first time it happens to you, or maybe when you're watching someone else play the game and see them react to all this stuff. Though, when removed from that context and when you're being forced to actually deal with it in-game, I'm not gonna pretend like this is something that it isn't. It sucks. It's not fun. By the way, that little mention of this being a cool RTS element isn't a straw man. I have genuinely seen people make this argument before. Like, oh, because the bombs are on timers and because you can see the shadows on the rocks, they're RTS elements because you have to react to them. But like, if we're calling those RTS elements, then I guess pressing the fucking jump button in a platformer is a goddamn RTS element. You can't just go ahead and call anything you have to react to an RTS element. Like, yeah, sure, if we're going with what the basic definition of what makes an RTS game, you're right, but there's literally no fucking skill to this, unlike everything else I've mentioned thus far. It's literally just, oh, is there something falling from the ceiling? Okay, I'm just gonna move out of the way for a few seconds until all that shit stops. It's not strategic, it's literally the most skillless way you could force players to make on-the-fly decisions. In fact, it does more to hurt the game than anything. Sometimes the traps won't trigger unless Pikmin are walking underneath them or if they start carrying something underneath them. This actively discourages multitasking because your squad could just get completely obliterated by something on their path back to the ship. This genuinely bullshit gameplay mechanic combined with the tedious enemy design and the uninspired level layouts just make getting through the caves more annoying than anything. And like I said earlier, combat is insanely trivialized because Purple Pikmin completely solo 99% of the enemy roster in this game. All of this just leads to a gameplay experience that's gonna become less and less fun as it goes on and more tedious by the second. It's the equivalent of bashing your head into a concrete wall aiming to tear it down. Like, yeah, you're gonna end up knocking it down eventually, but it's gonna feel miserable as hell and I'm not gonna feel accomplished by the end of it. I'm gonna be in the hospital. A lot of people like to label this as a hard video game, but honestly, I wouldn't even give it that. Like, yeah, from a casual standpoint it's hard, but I think a more accurate way to describe it is just really tedious and incredibly punishing. Whenever I recommend this series to people, I always tell them to avoid 2 until they get familiar with these games, because of everything I just mentioned. This game has so much going against it, and most of the caves just genuinely do not deliver on what Pikmin at its core feels like it should be.
Keyword there being most. See, if you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed there's a specific cave that I've been omitting until now. And yeah, it's exactly what you're thinking it is. So allow me to segue into the next section of the video. Why the Submerged Castle is fantastic.
So the Submerged Castle is the best cave in the game. It's genuinely not even a contest either, and honestly, I don't even think I have to argue my point here because I'm just kind of correct, but I'll do it anyways. This is the one cave in the game which I remember incredibly fondly and enjoy with very little things holding it back. And that's because that the things that make it good are in opposition to most of the new things that Pikmin 2 introduces. There are 2 main mechanics of the cave, the first being that you can only take blue Pikmin inside, and with the exception of being able to make white Pikmin on a single floor and getting Bulbmin if you start to lose some of your blues, they're the only type that you get to use throughout the cave, which is honestly great. As I've made it clear throughout my first video and this one, blues don't really have a lot going for them. Though functionally, within this cave, it's pretty much like you're forced to use Pikmin that have 0 attributes to them, no elemental resistances, or no special abilities. They're just basic Pikmin. And it's honestly a really cool idea, and if anything, it at least makes combat in this cave feel more like you actually have to use your brain because you can't just fall back on purple Pikmin all the time. And it makes navigating hazards a lot more dangerous, and yeah, Bulbmin are immune to all the elemental hazards that you'll find in the cave. They really just feel like supplemental members to your party, and assuming that you just don't blow complete ass at the game, blues are gonna outnumber them tenfold regardless. The second detail here is obviously the main thing everyone thinks about when they think about this cave. The Water Wraith. This guy will spawn in if you take too long on any given floor, and once he does, he'll roll after you with the goal of wiping out your entire squad. And trust me, you do not want this guy on your ass, as he can't be killed or even damaged until you reach the final floor, and as if it goes without saying, he's incredibly fucking dangerous. This actually adds a ticking clock element to the cave that I absolutely love. It forces you to not take your time with gathering up everything. Dare I say, it actually incentivizes you to analyze your environment and make the right decisions based on those deductions. There's other stuff that the cave does that I really like too, like how some of the sublevels cave exits are sealed. See, in every other cave in the game, the cave exits will take you down a floor and usually be open. And because of this concept and how dangerous the caves are, it's usually just optimal to make a beeline to the exit without any Pikmin in your squad and just go down once you don't have any treasures left. As your Pikmin, no matter where they are, if they're in your squad or not, they'll follow you down through the cave. Here, though, you actually have to, like, engage with the cave. And while, yes, the cave does have falling boulders to avoid, and you have to make purples on the final floor to even damage the Water Wraith, but ultimately, I don't really care, because the ladder bit specifically is disconnected enough from everything else, and given how much you had to fear the Water Wraith throughout the cave, turning the tables on it in this matter feels super cathartic, and it comes across as a nice little victory lap for surviving everything the cave throws at you. All around, this is just a really well-designed cave, and it's one of the main things that I look back to in regards to this game. I really, really do wish the rest of the game would follow in its footsteps and reach these same heights.
I'm kinda lying here though. There is an aspect of the game that does reach those heights. Though to talk about it, we have to leave the confines of the narrative for a second and talk about the multiplayer modes.
Now, Pikmin 2 wasn't the first game in the series to introduce side modes. Pikmin 1 actually had a challenge mode, which I didn't talk about in the Pikmin 1 video, but it's kind of boring, so I didn't bring it up.
And if you like Pikmin 1 challenge mode, fuck you, that's all you're getting. You will catch me dead in a McDonald's parking lot before you hear me talk about them more than just a passing mention.
Pikmin 2, on the other hand, actually has fun side modes. Or, okay, just one fun side mode. This game's challenge mode isn't bad per se, but it's not super titillating either. Which I know isn't the emotion that I should be feeling towards a Pikmin challenge mode, but considering how I want to enjoy what Pikmin 3 brings to the table in a very carnal fashion, I'd hope that this makes it a little bit more understandable. The mode essentially just sees you going through the caves, but with a time limit, though the mode kind of just inherently doesn't encourage you to interact with it very much. To get the best rank on each level, all you have to do is just complete it without any Pikmin losses, which, again, just makes it come across as more tedious than anything. It's particularly notable because of the fact that you can play it in multiplayer, though. Though, as far as that goes in this game, there's a whole other mode that does it so much better. And dare I say it, this might be the second best part of the game behind the Submerged Castle. Two-player battle in Pikmin 2 is so goddamn fun. I had no idea how fun a versus mode in a Pikmin game would be before playing this, and now that I have, it's genuinely some of the most fun I've ever had with a multiplayer game. Like, genuinely, Pikmin multiplayer has deadass become my go-to game to ask my friends to play with me, and thankfully, 2's offering is no slouch. The game sees player 1 take control of Olimar with red Pikmin, with player 2 taking control of Louie and blue Pikmin. To get rid of the obvious imbalance that this would cause right off the bat, the mode strips red Pikmin of their 1.5x damage buff, and none of the maps feature fire geysers or bodies of water. Each captain gets to have a max of 50 Pikmin each, and the goal of this mode is to either unearth 4 of these yellow marbles and carry them back to your base, or, alternatively, to go to your opponent's base and take back their colored marble to your base, working as sort of a capture the flag element. These two win conditions being on the player's mind throughout each round, in my opinion, almost perfectly translates the RTS elements found in the main games of 1 and even 2 into a multiplayer setting, and it's so goddamn fun. In fact, the only reason I even say almost here is because it's topped in Pikmin 3, but that's not to discredit how this game handles things at all. Like, right away, this gives you a bunch of things to think about. Is it worth it for me to go after the yellow marbles right away, or should I go in and take the colored marble right under my opponent's nose when they're busy with something else? If my opponent is very clearly in the lead, that's all I can feasibly do to win. Adding to this is the implementation of sprays in this mode. They both do exactly what they do in the main game, but Spicy Spray makes fighting opponent Pikmin a lot more one-sided in your favor, allowing you to make quick work of a bunch of opponent Pikmin to slow them down. Bitter Spray, on the other hand, can flat out bury opponent Pikmin for a short amount of time, making it a really effective way to immediately stop what your opponent is doing or just annoy the hell out of them. You start with 2 of each on every map except for Warpath, where you get 1 of each, though you're able to get more by breaking open these eggs or by carrying back a cherry to your onion, which will give you a random assortment of items. I'm not gonna go over all of them here, but they can do a variety of different things, like give you more Pikmin, buff your squad, flat out turn you invisible for a short time, attack or annoy your opponent by inflicting Pikmin 2's game design on them, or return your colored marble back to your base. The mode gives you 10 maps to work with, all reusing the cave themes found in the base game. However, that's a bit misleading, as every map has 3 distinct layouts to them, as well as the ability to completely randomly generate a layout for you too. This gives you so much content to play around with, and every layout is pretty substantially different as well. Two-player battle, for what it is, it goes far beyond just this little side mode that you play as a distraction from the main story, in my opinion. It's such a fun time that is absolutely worth a play if you like Pikmin and have friends who also like Pikmin as well. I can't even describe the amount of fun that I've had playing Pikmin multiplayer in recent memory. And while yeah, Pikmin 3's Bingo Battle is pretty much basically the strictly better offering, Pikmin 2's isn't worth passing up just because of that. I really like a lot of the tech that it has specifically, such as the usage of the sprays and how Pikmin fight one another. Spoilers for a potential Pikmin 3 video, but Bingo Battle's single most obvious flaw to it is found with the Pikmin AI, and how frustrating it can be to get them to do what you want them to do. Like, seriously, this single thing is so infuriating sometimes, to the point where I honestly think Bingo Battle is the one multiplayer game that always tilts me in ways that no other game can even dream of doing.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop! Stop!
Stop! Stop! What is it doing? What is it doing? What is it doing? What is it doing?
my Pikmin! Where are they? Where are they? I need more. I need more. I need more.
Where are they? Where are my guys? Go get the freaking strawberry! Yes!
Though, like I said, Pikmin 2's multiplayer mode stacks up really well to Pikmin 3's Bingo Battle, and it's especially worth going back to if you have friends that like Pikmin and are up for it. Easily one of my favorite parts of Pikmin 2. Though, I think there's a point to be made there that the most fun that I've had with this game, or some of the most consistent fun I've had from this game, is from something that is not confined to the actual main campaign of Pikmin 2. So, I think it's time we go back to talking about that. Guys, I fucking hate the Wistful Wilds!
So once you complete the goal of erasing Hakutate Fright's debt, you leave the planet and save the president from getting castrated. Though this goal being completed isn't without further conflict. This is a bad video game after all, so Olimar accidentally leaves Louis behind on the planet. Judging by the credits video though, Louis doesn't seem all too bothered by this outcome and is actually super chill about this, and he doesn't really make it his whole personality either. Once you make it back to Hakutate, the president finds out that there are more treasures on the planet to be found and decides to go there in place of Louis, functioning as a replacement to him for the rest of the game. Now, even though the credits did roll here, and with that, it could technically be considered the end of the game, let's not kid ourselves here. Beating Pikmin 2 doesn't just involve completing the debt. Hell, I wouldn't even say it involves saving Louis. I personally believe that the way, and the only way, to formally beat Pikmin 2 is to get every single treasure in the game. Partly because that's the only way the game will say the end. So once the president joins you and you don't have the goal of the debt looming over you anymore, it kind of makes going through the rest of the game feel like a victory lap, which is how I treat this part of the game anyways. Going through all three areas, picking up everything you may have missed, though you also get a completely new area to explore, the Wistful Wilds.
I just wanna fucking play Pikmin 1!
I'm just gonna be blunt here. The Wistful Wild sucks. I genuinely believe that this part of the game takes every single bit that I didn't like about the game before, and then dials it up to 10 for no reason other than the fact that the final area gotta be hard. The game up until now is annoying and tedious at points, but I still think overall, it was pretty manageable, though that cope disappears the second you step foot into this area. The cave designs here are genuinely just fucking unreasonable at points. Like this floor, which plops one of every single Bulboard type in front of you and tells you to just go nuts. Or this one, where you have to fight 3 fiery Bulblaxes in a row. Or this one, where you're just dropped into a goddamn lake with a Gatling Groink roaming the premises. Or one where there's approximately like 27 cannon beetles placed around the floor. Or maybe this one, where you have to fight a Man-at-Legs over water. Or maybe this one as well, where you have to fight 2 Emperor Bulblaxes with bomb rocks everywhere. Or how about this one, where you have to fight a Gatling Groink on a sniper outpost surrounded by Bulborbs? Do you see my point now? This goes beyond the game just being hard, because I still stand by the fact that Pikmin 2 isn't really a hard game, but what this game is though, and I'm starting to sound like a broken record at this point, I know, it's tedious as shit. The game just genuinely stops being fun by this point. I'm sorry guys, but by this point in the game, I just can't force myself to care anymore. Especially when going through this final cave in the game, the Dream Den. 14 goddamn floors, because fuck me, right? This is where Louis is found, by the way. He's at the very bottom of the cave, sitting on this pile of treasure. Though, once you go up to him to try and take him home...
Oh, I got you! Yeah!
Yeah, Louis is the final boss. It's implied very heavily that Louis is actually the one controlling the Titan Dweevil, which is just really fucking funny. Like, it's one thing that Louis is just an inherently funny-looking character, but what makes him even more funny to me is that he's the fucking villain of this game. I kinda just forget that he's the one who kicks off the plot in the game, which is because of his selfishness, by the way. It's completely his fault. Louis is an asshole. I love him, though. And genuinely, I think he might be one of my favorite Nintendo villains, which is a really, really funny thing to say, and it's really funny trying to explain that to people who don't know anything about these games. Like, how are you gonna tell me that this guy is one of the most accurate depictions of a sociopath in a video game? With that said though, the Titan Dweevil fight is just kind of... it's kind of whatever. It can attack you with all 4 elemental hazards, and to deal damage to it, you gotta knock all 4 of these things that shoot the hazards off of the Titan Dweevil. Though each part takes like a lot of hits to knock down, and if you deal enough damage to one, it'll start to malfunction, causing it to hit you with more irregular patterns. Like with everything else in this game, I wouldn't really classify this as a hard fight, though I'll give it this. It's more of an actual challenge than most of the other parts in the game. And I'll even go as far to say that this is a better final boss than Pikmin 1's, though Pikmin 1's final boss is kind of a pushover. And it also has like 0 fanfare to it. It's just you kill the guy and then you get the part and then you leave. In Pikmin 2, it actually feels like a war. Though, one little critique that I have with the fight that kind of brings down the entire fight is because one of the attacks involves electricity. I don't have an inherent issue with this because, like I said, electricity is a hazard that you have to respect in the game, though by having a hazard that is inherently unbalanced in relation to the rest of the hazards here, it makes the fight come across as a bit stilted. But, ooh, neuron activation! What if I come back here with all yellows? Now, yeah, I don't expect people to do this on their first playthrough, but guys, like I said, by this point, I just stopped fucking caring. I was so apathetic towards this game, and the thought of using all yellows crossed my mind, so I decided to act on that thought. And it makes the fight considerably easier than it would be without. I don't dislike this fight, mind you. I think it's fine, but again, by this point, I just didn't care. So yeah, you defeat the Titan Dweevil, you rescue Louie, and once you've collected every single treasure in the game, you're treated to an ending cutscene where Olimar and the President fly away as all of the Pikmin start to glow. The end.
Holy fuck!
You know, can I be honest with you guys for a second? I liked Pikmin 2 at one point. If you remember back in my Pikmin 1 video, I made the statement that there was no truly bad Pikmin game. That matters. And while I still mostly agree with this, honestly, now, I don't know how I feel about this fucking game. I obviously knew that this game had issues when I first played it. I experienced them. I acknowledged those issues while still enjoying it despite the flaws. Though, man, I don't know anymore. This game really, really fell apart for me on the second playthrough. The flaws that I just kind of pushed down because I thought that the game at its core was fun, they became more and more obvious, and I stopped being able to cope my way through by saying, yeah, the game is poorly designed at bits, but it's funny. It's tedious. Yeah, Pikmin at its core is always gonna be fun, and I'd say that even through it all, I still had fun with Pikmin 2, but that bit of fun isn't something that I'm just gonna let overpower the rest of the shit this game has. I'm sorry, I just can't. Though, I think that one of the strongest aspects of this game that really doesn't have anything to do with the gameplay is that, even through everything, the game has a lot of heart. Like, an infectious amount of heart to it. Like I said before, the game is incredibly experimental. It feels like the devs were trying out a lot of new shit with this game to see what would work and what wouldn't. And viewing it from that angle, it kind of makes the game come across as a bit, I don't know, endearing? Yeah, I bet you didn't expect me to come to that conclusion about this game given how negative I've been throughout this video, but While looking over everything, I just kinda get the sense that these developers were having a whole lot of fun making this game. The messy game design goes from annoying to a bit charming, and speaking of charm, like I mentioned before, this game is already bursting with it. I mean it when I say that this is one of the most charming games that Nintendo has ever made with its writing and its characters. I love characters like Olimar, Louie, and the President just from how they're written. The emails you get in the Piclopedia help expand more on this world in ways that they didn't need to do, but they did it anyways, and that's so fucking endearing. The fact that almost every single treasure in the GameCube and the Wii versions of the game were real-world objects, the little faces in the battle mode menu as you beat your opponent into the fucking ground, the fact that the Pikmin sing as you run around, even through all of that tedium, you can really tell that the devs were having a fucking blast while making this game. In fact, honestly, the fact that Pikmin 2 even exists is kind of indicative of this. This was a point in time where it felt like Nintendo would just make things. They wouldn't worry about the menial shit and just make whatever the fuck they wanted to. Like, if Pikmin 1 came out nowadays, I guarantee you we wouldn't see a Pikmin 2 for like 20 more years. And it's because of this that I feel like this game is very much a product of its time, more so than every other game in the series. Nintendo wouldn't make a game like this anymore. And yeah, that can be said for a lot of what they made in the GameCube era. Like, we'll probably never see another 3D Mario like Sunshine again, for example. But I almost think that Pikmin 2 is a stronger example. The jank game design and the charming as hell writing, that I should mention got censored slightly in the Switch release, which kind of proves my point a little bit more. It's all proof that this is a game that you could only get out of the GameCube era of Nintendo. And call it a bit silly, but I think that's enough to bump the game up a bit for me.
With that said, though, I think it's very clear that Pikmin 2 is a game that I respect a lot more than I actually like, and even that's debatable. While Pikmin 2 isn't really a bad game per se, it's one that I find really, really hard to genuinely defend. It's flawed as shit, and I had to fucking kill a man to prove my point. I had to shoot a man in the leg to prove my point. Can you stop interrupting me? I can't really pretend that Pikmin 2 isn't anything other than the worst game in the series. And listen, I get the sense that Pikmin 2 fans are very defensive about their favorite game in the series, which is fine. I don't mean to make this video to change your mind about Pikmin 2 if you like it. If you love Pikmin 2, that's great, keep loving Pikmin 2. But I made this video simply to just go over why I personally don't enjoy it, and I hope that we can come to a common ground there at least. I think that's fair. I also think it's very fair to not ignore the fact that this game is incredibly damn flawed, because that really helps nobody if you're just ignoring them and brushing them off as if they don't matter. My favorite is Pikmin 1, and acting like that game isn't completely busted up and broken is complete blasphemy, because yeah, it's broken as shit, it's really short, and it has almost nothing to offer up unless you really enjoy the prospect of going back, replaying games, and ringing them for all they're worth. But I'm able to look past those flaws, and in spite of those, I found it to be a very, very innovative experience with a lot of replay value. That's what I value out of that game, and that's why I enjoy it. Well, Pikmin 2 is an enjoyable game at points, and it adds some fun shakeups to the series. It's charming as hell at points, has some really strong moments throughout the game, has a really fun battle mode, and is ultimately pretty damn fun to 100%. I think the overall package is, while there is some fun to be had, it's not something that I would ever want to play ever again in my life. I'm comfortable just leaving Pikmin 2 as is and never touching it again. And with that, I have a body to dispose of.
Don't worry, guys. He's fine. He'll be back in the next one, and it'll all be okay. Like, comment, and subscribe, please!